Hey guys, Kevin from Subispeed. We've got the WRX up in the air today and we're going to be installing the Perrin equal length header. Now I know most of you guys aren't fans of Subaru getting rid of the unequal length header, but with the new twin scroll and equal length header setup, we can get a little bit more power out of the FA20 DIT motor. That being said, Perrin advertises an increase of up to 15 to 20 wheel horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque. So a nice upgrade, all that being without a tune. So without further ado, let's jump right into the install. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is remove these hoses from the plastic intake tube. Now if you have the stock boost control solenoid, you're going to have 3 hoses, otherwise you may have more if you have an aftermarket one. So go ahead and remove those. Once you have the hoses removed, you can unplug your boost control solenoid. Once you have your solenoid unplugged, you're going to want to remove the 2 10mm bolts, one on this side and one on the other side, that's holding your intake tube in place, and then move the clip that's holding your bypass valve or blow-off valve right here down so you can remove that. And then you're going to loosen up the clamp and you'll be able to remove this plastic intake tube. Once that plastic intake tube is out of the way, you're going to want to remove 2 12mm bolts that are holding in your charge pipe. Once the charge pipe bolts are removed, you're going to look on the passenger side of your engine, and there's going to be these 2 hoses as well as this oil feed pipe. You're going to want to grab 2 17mm open-ended wrenches to undo this pipe. Once that oil feed pipe is unscrewed, you're going to want to get a drain pan under these 2 hoses. This is your oil drain hose and this is your coolant feed hose. You're going to grab a pair of vice grips or pinch pliers to pinch off the coolant hose to minimize any coolant that you lose. And then you're going to want to grab a pair of pliers and move this clamp down, and you're going to take this off and drain it into the drain pan. Now before you pull off the hose that I'm about to pull off, go ahead and pinch off this coolant hose as well so the coolant doesn't just keep flowing out. Now while the oil is draining, we're going to move this clamp here from the coolant feed hose, and then go ahead and remove this and dump any coolant that's in this area into your drain pan. Now once you have the other 2 hoses removed, we're going to need to remove these 2 hoses that are left here as well. The next step is going to be removing your J-pipe. Now there's 4 nuts holding it onto your turbo, as well as 2 bolts, one over here and one down here that's holding the bracket that's connected to the J-pipe. Once you have those removed, go ahead and unclip your O2 sensor and the ground wire, remove the ground wire bolt, and then remove any bolts that are holding this to your catback, and then you can get this removed. Now one thing to note is these nuts and studs do shear or break off on some people, so you may want to spray them down with some liquid wrench or something of that sort before you go ahead and remove them. Now you may want to get this bolt from the top side. It's a little bit easier to access, so there's not much room down here to go at it. But I have it partially out, so I'm just going to keep working at it. You're also going to need to remove a 10mm bolt that's holding this shield in place. Once you have the J-pipe uninstalled, we can work on actually removing the header. There are 3 14mm nuts on each side holding it on, so go ahead and break those loose and you'll be able to drop the header down and out. You may want to grab a helping hand when you're removing the header, since it is a large piece altogether with the turbo. Once you finally have the header off, you're going to want to take this heat shield off. It's held on by 3 10mm bolts, and then flip this whole assembly over, and there's 4 bolts that are holding on the heat shield for the actual header. Now we are going to reuse the turbo heat shield, so keep the bolts and the heat shield for that. Now when you do flip this over, there may be some coolant or oil still in there. Be aware of that. You may want to try and dump all that out first, just so you don't make a mess. We won't be reusing the header heat shield, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so I lied. There's actually 5 bolts holding this heat shield on. Once you have the heat shields off, there's going to be 4 14mm nuts that are holding on the turbo assembly, so go ahead and break those loose. Again, these bolts and studs are easy to break and strip, so be careful, spray them down, and if you're worried,
grab a set of replacements available on our website.
Once you have those nuts off, you can separate the assembly from the header. Now you also want to pay attention to this bracket that held on the turbo heat shield, because you will be reinstalling this. Once you have the turbo mounted to your new Perrin header, go ahead and reinstall the heat shield and install the whole system onto your engine. You're going to be reusing those 14mm nuts, and you're going to want to torque those down to 31 foot-pounds. Once that's done, it's a matter of getting everything back together the way it was. Now for the J-pipe, you're going to want to tighten these 2 bottom nuts first, and then the 2 bolts that are holding in the top bracket, and then the 2 remaining nuts that are holding the J-pipe to your turbo. Once you have everything put back together, you want to make sure you get everything torqued down correctly and all the hoses reinstalled in the correct positions, and then you can refill any coolant or oil that you may have lost during the installation, and then you can start it up and check for any leaks. Now, if everything's good, you can reinstall your skid plate and splash guard, but when you're reinstalling your skid plate, you want to use the new bolts and washers that Perrin provides, because you're going to need to use that spacer in between the chassis and the skid plate, since the Perrin header does protrude down a little bit further. Don't forget that step, otherwise it's not going to fit correctly, but once you have everything bolted back up, you're good to go. So let's go out for a test drive. All right, well there we go guys. The car definitely feels a bit more responsive with the butt dyno, and the exhaust has a deeper tone to it and a more aggressive tone, so that's lovely as well. Now let's talk a little bit about the lack of tuning that Perrin advertises for this header. Now if you have a stock car, not a lot of aftermarket parts, and you toss this on there, you're gonna be good. But if you have a lot of aftermarket parts like we do on this car, you're gonna wanna get a custom tune just to be safe. That being said, if you want to get some more horsepower and torque out of your car, this is definitely a great investment and a quality piece from Perrin. And if you want to pick one up for yourself, go and click on the top right-hand corner of the video. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to email us, sales@subispeed.com, or give us a ring, 888-885-2002. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on your WRX, SCI, BRZ, or Forester. Remember to hit that subscribe button for more 2015 WRX and SCI videos. If you haven't already, let us know in the comment section down below what other videos you'd like to see. Click that Subispeed logo down there to visit our website and connect with us through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We love seeing your guys' installs and projects that you're working on, so feel free to share those. Also add us on Snapchat by scanning that ghost over there to see what kind of shenanigans we're up to in the shop or when we're out on a trip. And if you haven't already done so, check out our latest videos. Till next time, guys.